Hi, I'm Suze and welcome to EduBofs, where you'll find tips for teachers and help for your students. If you haven't already, please click that little red subscribe button down below as well as the little bell next to it so you know when new videos pop up. So I'm going to have to ask you to excuse the shaky camera. I couldn't find my tripod attachment for my phone, so it's a little bit shaky for today, but it's just going to have to do. As you can see, I'm in my garden because I don't have all the equipment at home with me, and I have to get this done now because we're about to have a long weekend and I'm not going to have a chance to do this video at all. Also, it's hectic at school at the moment, which means that Shells and I are both neck deep in marking and all the other things that come with it. So I'm going to make this one short and sweet. This one is for the teachers and it is to do with learning goals. So if you hadn't noticed already, I've mentioned learning goals a few times in videos previously, and you probably think I'm harping on about it quite a bit, but learning goals to me is key to a successful classroom. Without learning goals, neither you nor your students actually know where you're headed for that lesson. So I think it's really important that we have those learning goals. One of the people who I look up to the most in terms of learning intentions, learning goals, all that kind of things is a guy named John Hattie. And he said that learning goals actually has one of the biggest effect sizes in your classroom than just about anything else. So learning goals is hugely important in the classroom. Number one for you, number two, like I said, for the students, because if the students don't know where they're going in a lesson, they're kind of going to be less engaged and thinking, what's the point? So number one, it's really important to have your learning goal visible for the students. So having it written up on the board or having it on the PowerPoint that you're using or somewhere visible in your classroom. So a learning goal shouldn't just be an intention of what you're going to do in the classroom, but it should be an intention of what cognitions they're going to be using in the classroom. For example, are they defining things? Are they explaining things? Are they comparing and contrasting things? These are all cognitive verbs, and a lot of you will recognize these from Bloom's taxonomy. So these are all thinking verbs, so doing verbs for your mind, pretty much. And if kids can understand what these are, especially now in Queensland where QCAA is expecting students to know these cognitive verbs, then they're going to be able to think for themselves a lot better. So it's really good for their metacognition. So an example of a learning goal that I might use in my maths class, for example, might be something like, I will be able to solve a two-step equation. The key cognitive verb in there is solve. We're expecting them to do something that is cognitive, and they know that. So we write it up on the board. It has cognitive verbs in it. And number three, we talk about it with the kids. So what I do is I have it written on the board. The students come in, they write down their date, title, and learning goal. And as soon as they're ready, I pick a student to read out the learning goal for the day. So they read it out for the class. The next thing I do is I ask them to pick out the cognitive verb in the learning goal. Usually at this point of the year, so we're midterm 3, I don't even have to ask the kids to put their hands up. They're all fighting to put their hands up to tell me what the cognitive verb is. So now they know the difference between a cognitive verb and a regular verb. And they know quite a few of them now as well. If it is a cognitive verb that we have not used before, then we go into having a little 5-minute discussion about what that cognitive verb means and what it means in terms of what they should be able to do by the end of that lesson. So, written on the board, includes cognitive verbs, and number 3, the students need to be able to understand what that cognitive verb is asking them to do in terms of the content that they're going to be learning in that lesson. If all students and the teacher are on the same page in terms of those learning goals, they are knowing what they are doing and they are more likely to achieve what you want them to achieve by the end of the lesson. Now, that's a very short and sweet version of the learning goal video that I want to do. I want to go far more in depth with it. I really think learning goals are super important. So that's just a taster. And in another video, I might give you some more examples of some learning goals and how that could play out in a classroom and how else you could use it while it's up on the board. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, just pop them down in that comments box below. We are on all the socials. Just look up at EduBofs or at EduBoffins, and we'll see you next time. Bye.